Hello kids, today let's read an adventure story of Gulliver's Travel. Long ago, a surgeon named Lemuel Gulliver lived with his family in England. He was a doctor on a ship and made many voyages. Once, when he was on travel to the South Sea, the ship faced a violent storm and was broken into pieces. Gulliver knew how to swim and reached ashore. Once ashore, he lay down and fell asleep. When Gulliver woke up, he could not get up. He found that his arms, legs, and hair were tied strongly to the ground. The sun was shining brightly, so he could not open his eyes, but he felt something crawling up his left leg towards his chest. Gulliver realized it was a tiny man who was less than 6 inches tall, carrying a bow and arrow when it came up to his chin. In no time, many more climbed on him. Gulliver was so surprised that he cried out loudly, startling them. They got scared and ran back. Some even fell and got hurt. The little people, Lilliputs, captured Gulliver and carried him to their capital city, where they kept him chained outside the city walls. Many people came to see Gulliver every day. They were surprised at his size, but not afraid, as Gulliver was very friendly. Soon the king and Gulliver became great friends, and he was set free. One day a neighboring kingdom, Blefuscu, whose inhabitants were tiny like the Lilliputs, attacked them. Gulliver tied all the enemy ships together, pulled them with all his might, and sent them to the middle of the sea. The king was very happy, and now he had full faith in Gulliver. But this made the king's admiral and treasurer dislike him. These two men planned to have Gulliver blinded and executed. Gulliver had some friends in the court who informed him of this plot. He escaped on a human-sized boat that was washed ashore and rowed to nearby Australia. From there, he found a ship that took him back to England. Gulliver stayed with his family briefly before heading out to sea again on a ship called Adventure. Unfortunately, Adventure was also blown off course by storms, and they were forced to sail for land in search of fresh water. Gulliver was then abandoned by his companions on the island of Brobdingnag. The grass of Brobdingnag was as tall as trees, and the people all over 60 feet. The giant farmer took Gulliver home. The farmer then began to exhibit him for money. Gulliver soon came to the attention of the queen. The farmer then sold him to the queen, who kept him as a pet. She was amused because he was so small and yet managed to speak and act like a real person. The queen also employed the farmer's daughter to look after Gulliver and teach him their language. Since Gulliver was too small to use their huge furniture, the queen had a small box house built for him to be carried around in it. Gulliver started enjoying his stay there. He would discuss the state of Europe with the king, who was rather unhappy with Gulliver's accounts, especially after learning about the use of guns and cannons. One day on a trip to the seaside, Gulliver's box was carried off by a giant eagle, who then dropped it into the sea. Soon he was picked up by sailors who took him to England. After his return, Gulliver stayed with his family in England for about 2 months before sailing out to sea again. He had several other adventures before he decided to quit sailing and stay at home finally. Unfortunately, his determination lasted for hardly 5 months, much to the disappointment of his family. This time, Gulliver set out as the captain of his ship. However, his sailor did not like him and revolted. They then leave him on a distant island and carried on their journey. This island was home to the Hoy-Hun-Hunnums, who looked like horses and governed themselves with absolute reason. In Hoy-Hun-Hunnum land, Gulliver grew so used to the Hoy-Hun-Hunnum way of life that when the Hoy-Hun-Hunnums told him that he must leave because he was after all a human being, he became agitated. Once Gulliver returned to his family, he felt unhappy at the thought that he could not go back to Hoy-Hun-Hunnum land. He then spent the rest of his days with his pet horses. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe our channel Story Club India.